welcome to the last week together. This week we're talking about one pot meals, and there was a request for me to do a casserole. I grew up eating casseroles, so I know my way around a casserole, but casseroles are like very, very versatile. Basically, it's something that comes out of the oven in a casserole dish. I don't have a casserole dish. It's technically like a porcelain dish with handles, but I have a Dutch oven. And if you don't have a casserole dish or a Dutch oven, you can always use like a glass baking pan, like a 10 by 13 or whatever size you need for the contents that you're going to put in it. Basically, it's one dish that goes into the oven. You could also do a casserole in a Instapot if you have one, or a slow cooker, and then that would be something that you could throw everything into before you go to work for the day and set it for 6 hours or something. But today we're doing it in the oven at a regular temperature, 350 degrees. And it's one way to just have everything that you're going to have in your meal in one dish. So we've got protein, we've got some grains, we've got lots of vegetables, and lots of flavor. So first we're going to start with browning our onions. I've got one whole onion diced here. I'm going to turn on my stove. Heat up the pan. That if your casserole dish is oven or stovetop ready, then you could use that, or just use your pan. I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil just to get the onions started. And I'm using sausage. I think sausage is a great component to use because it's full of flavor. First of all, it's already seasoned for you, and it's got lots of great fat that's going to make you feel satisfied when you eat this, and it'll go further in your dish. So I think that's part of the attraction to casseroles, is when you have like all these little bits of things, and maybe you don't have enough to feed an entire sausage to each of your family members, but a little bit goes a long way in this instance. So we're going to brown our onions, then we're going to throw in, I've sliced up the sausage, but you could take it out of the casing and crumble it, or you can throw it in whole and chop it up later once it's cooked. So once our pot is heated up, add in your onions and just get them going for a couple of minutes. Throw in a little bit of salt just to bring the juices out, and we're going to just cook them down a little bit and then add our sausage and garlic. I've got a bulb of garlic here. I'm just going to throw in 3 cloves. The sausage is seasoned with salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic. So they're already seasoned, but I like to keep layering on the flavors. So when I'm peeling my garlic, when I'm throwing it in, I'm going to chop it all up anyways. So just the easiest way to peel it is to lay your knife down on the clove flat, and then you're going to use the palm of your hand or the heel of your hand to smash it, just like that. And then the clove comes away fairly easily from the skin, which is often pretty tedious if you're just peeling a whole clove. Just like that. And then I'm just going to give this a rough chop. So we're sort of just giving everything a nice caramelization on the stovetop just for a few minutes, just to add in some flavor. You could do this just all in one pot, raw, and cook it a little bit longer just to make sure everything's cooked through, but I do like to add that brown caramelization to my onions and the sausage. So in goes the sausage. And just give it a quick stir, and then I'm going to let it do its thing for a little bit. You don't want to keep stirring and stirring and stirring, because it'll just sort of steam, and what you want is for some of the bits that are touching the bottom of the pan to get nice and browned. So I'm going to throw the garlic in. I've got a spice blend here that I've got. There's some dry basil, some more salt. This is some smoked paprika and a couple of bay leaves. I'm going to put my garlic in there, and we're going to throw that in just at the end of the sausage cook. And while I'm waiting for that to cook, I'm going to chop up my cabbage. So this is sort of the main components, the main veggie in our dish. It's sort of my take on a lazy cabbage casserole, which maybe you're familiar with, which also or usually involves ground beef or ground pork or a combination of both. So we're doing sausage instead, and we're spicing it up a little bit. You can either use a box grater and shred your cabbage if you like it really fine in there, so that maybe it's disguised a little bit more. But I'm going to do this in like bigger chunks because I like to have a bite of cabbage. But again, it's up to you. And take out that core. Got our cabbage on a flat side so that it's steady. I'm just going to cut down through it a couple of times, and then I'm going to go across the opposite way. And I've got some nice bite-sized pieces that will cook down in the oven. So half of this gets cooked on the stove, and then we mix it all together, and it's going to finish cooking in the oven. I like to include a little bit more fiber and protein, and I think an easy and sneaky way to get those in there is through the form of beans or legumes and whole grains. So today I'm using some green lentils. I've just soaked them, and as you can see, I've got some wild rice in here. Wild rice or brown rice is great, but you have to remember that they take quite a bit longer to cook. So you might have your casserole in the oven for close to an hour. So those have both been soaked for a little while. And my sausage is beginning to brown, and it's starting to get cooked through. We don't have to worry about it getting completely cooked through though, because it's going to finish up in the oven. So now I'm going to add in my spices and garlic and let them get happy together in the pot. And you can add whatever vegetables you might have on hand, something else that you just want to throw in there from your refrigerator. I had some mushrooms that I thought would be good. A pepper would be really good. I think peppers and sausage, or a fennel bulb would be nice. You can throw in some diced up carrots and celery. Now I'm going to put my mushrooms in. My dish is getting very full already, and I want room for all of my other things. Might not even use all of this cabbage. It will cook down, so if it's very full, don't worry, as long as it's not going to boil over. And we've got liquid in there to kind of fill in the gaps. We want to get our lentils and rice in there, and I just want to make sure it's all going to fit. can of tomatoes here. These are whole tomatoes, so I'm just going to pour them into this bowl, crush them up just a little bit with my hands. I don't want them whole, but I don't want them pureed. I like to have chunks of tomato in there, so I'm just going to get my hands in there and break up these tomatoes just a little bit. Okay, we'll pour that in. And then, because we're using uncooked dry lentils and rice, we want to add a little bit more liquid as well. So you could use water, but I have some chicken stock that was heating up on the stove here, which I think just adds even more flavor. And you'll want to put in about 2 cups. Those mushrooms and the cabbage are going to release liquid too, so if you remember cooking grains and lentils, it's about 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 depending on the type. So 1 cup of your grains or lentils to 2 to 3 cups of liquid. So I'm doing 1 to 2, but also remember that you've got extra liquid coming out of the vegetables that are still raw, and they'll cook all together. So I want to cook my rice and lentils through completely, as well as my sausage. So for the first part of the cooking, the first half, probably 25 minutes, we're gonna put it in with the lid on, so it gets nice and hot and not a whole lot of moisture will evaporate. And then we'll check it and see how it's doing. And then we do want it to kind of cook off a bunch of moisture if there's still some left that hasn't been absorbed into the grains and the lentils. And we'll take the lid off and let it finish cooking for another 20-25 minutes. Our oven's at 350. So onto the middle rack, and I'll see you back here in 25 minutes. Okay, I took the lid off halfway through, and it's been cooking for just over an hour. I wanted to give it some extra time for that wild rice, but I think it's ready. We're going to take it out of the oven. Oh, looks great, nice and golden. It's still pretty liquidy, so it's going to be, a bit more of a stewy sort of thing, but it's definitely like a nice hearty meal. You can serve this with a side salad. You could put some cheese on top, maybe some nice crusty bread to go with it for dipping. But I think this is a meal that everyone can enjoy, and you can just put this right on top of the table and everybody can just dig in and help themselves. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.